A very big hello to my wonderful KCET and PU2 champions. I hope all of you are doing great and welcome you to the Masterstroke series where today we are going to cover human reproduction in one go. Now those of you who have a doubt that ma'am, will it be useful for PU2 as well as KCET? The answer is yes. I will make sure, that's my promise, that I will make sure that all your concepts related to your KCET and PU2 is superbly covered over here. You do not have to refer to anything after this. That's my promise. You can trust on me for this. Okay. And also a very special thanks to three people, Gauri and Vedashri and also Siddhappa, because you guys took my words very seriously. You guys did the homework. Put down the comments also that this is the answer, ma'am. Some of you got it a bit wrong, but yes, then you corrected your answers. Some of you got all your answers correct also. You know what? The effort that you're putting in over here to solve the question, that itself means a lot. And it is going to be very helpful for you guys. So everyone who is watching this video, come on, get ahead and start solving the homework questions at least, okay? And watch the video in one go, and let's go ahead with human reproduction, starting with the first thing in the form of question, and that is choose the correct sequence of events that occurs in human reproduction. Why did I put this question? Because this is the first concept and I thought I can explain you this concept with the help of the question. So my dear children, when you talk about sexual reproduction, what do you need? Baba, you need gametes. The gametes have to come, they have to fuse and form the zygote. So first process that has to happen for sexual reproduction to take place is what? Gametogenesis. Gametogenesis means what? Formation of gamete. Okay, fine. Gametogenesis took place. Then after this gametogenesis took place, gametes are being formed. Now the male and the female gamete has to meet. And for that, the male has to basically ejaculate inside the female reproductive tract. This process is known as insemination. Inside you're putting what? Semen. So that is known as insemination. So after gametes are being formed, you need insemination. Now after insemination, my dear children, what should happen? After insemination, what should generally be happening? After insemination, basically, male and the female gamete should be fusing up together, and this process is known as fertilization, right? Fertilization should take place. So over here, fertilization is elsewhere. So I'll say until now everything was correct, but at this point everything got wrong. So gametogenesis, then insemination, I do not have any other option, but I have gametogenesis, then fertilization. Yes, this could be correct. They have not mentioned insemination anywhere, so probably they have missed it, but okay. After gametogenesis, you have insemination and then you have fertilization. After fertilization, what happens? Zygote is being formed. This zygote is going to divide, and now the zygote needs nourishment to form an embryo. And who provides nourishment? Basically, the uterine wall of the female will be providing the initial nourishment. So for that, it has to go and get embedded into the wall. This is the wall of the uterus. Basically, the embryo should be coming and get embedded over here, very close. And this process is known as implantation. You are planting something out there. This is known as implantation. And after implantation, the embryo is going to develop into the fetus, and this whole stages that is going to be happening is known as gestation. And finally, a little baby is going to move out, and that is known as parturition. So these are the steps of what? Sexual reproduction, and you should know it. Starting with gametogenesis, you have insemination, then fertilization, then implantation, then gestation, and then parturition. Done. This is the basic thing. Okay. Now this came as a question in your KCET examination also, and this can be coming in your PU2 as well. So please be sure that you know this. Fine. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the male reproductive system. And in male reproductive system, one guy is there who's pretty much famous, and that is what? The testis. Why do you call this as the primary sex organ? So, ma'am, you have written primary sex organ. Why is it like that? Because, my dear children, it does the primary function. Without sperms, do you think fertilization can happen? No. So the primary function is to form the sperms, and who does that? Testis does that. So why it is known as primary sex organ? Because it is going to help with the formation of gametes, which is sperms in this particular case. And apart from that, the gametes cannot just come like that. It needs certain hormones, and these hormones in the case of males are known as what? The male sex hormones, or you popularly call them as androgens. And among androgens, my dear children, which is there, one famous hormone is there, which is known as what? Testosterone. Testosterone. Okay, so it is nothing but an example of male sex organ. So basic male sex hormone, yes. So basically this particular guy is known as primary sex organ because it is responsible for gamete production and also for the male hormone production. Done? Yes. Now we'll talk more about it. So where is the testis? You know, testis cannot be inside our body. Why? Because testis has this major function to do, and the sperm says that I am not going to be formed until and unless the temperature is at least 2 to 2.5 degrees Celsius lower than the normal body temperature. I am not going to form. Okay, then what can be done? Probably I am going to put you inside the sac and put you outside the body, and that is exactly going to happen. The sac-like structure which is there, my dear children, it is known as scrotum, and it is going to be outside the abdominal cavity, lower abdominal cavity. So basically, if at all I say that this is a man, okay, so over here he has his heart and everything. Here ends a cavity that is known as thoracic cavity. Now below this you have what? Abdominal cavity. Fine. In abdominal cavity, this lower area has a specific name. It is known as the pelvic region. Pelvic region. So I'll say it can be either lower abdominal cavity, or I can also call this as what? Pelvic region. Now inside the pelvic region you do not have the testis, but you have it inside the sac. And this sac-like structure which you have, my dear children, is known as what? Scrotum. And why is the testis inside the scrotum? Because sperm formation cannot take place in the normal body temperature. It needs what? 2 to 2.5 degrees Celsius lower than the normal body temperature. Now there is a famous question that is being asked, and most of us get it wrong also. And what is that? Ma'am, what is the size of testis? So basically you have length and you have the width given in your NCERT, and there is an easy way to remember it. So just a second. Yeah, 2 to 3 is going to be the width. 4 to 5 is going to be the length. So 2, 3, 4, 5. You can remember like that. So 2 to 3 is the width. 4 to 5 is what? The length. Please remember, this is an important question that comes in KCET and also in your PU2. So every MCQ that can come in KCET can also pop up in your PU2 also, because both of them has the same thing only, and that is your NCERT, right? So please know about it. Okay, now done. That is done. Now let's go a bit inside the testis and see what is happening up there, right? So for that, I have to go over here. So basically, I'll just give you a general idea. Just a second. Yeah. So over here, if I talk about the testis, no, it is divided into few chambers like this. What do you call this? This is team lead. This is what? Team lead. Or basically, I can call it testicular lobules. Okay, what do you call it? Testicular lobules, which is why I said team lead, right? Inside each of the testicular lobules, my dear children, by the way, how many testicular lobules do you have? It is basically 250 of them. Why is not in silent mode? Yeah, so basically there are 250 testicular lobules, and you know what? The crazy part is that inside each testicular lobules, you will be having almost 1 to 3 seminiferous tubules. Seminiferous tubules. ST. Okay, so 250 testicular lobules, inside that 1 to 3 seminiferous tubules. Now you might be thinking, what is happening up over here in the seminiferous tubule? Why is it important? That is also one thing, very important thing that we should be knowing. So let's get into it. So suppose this is a seminiferous tubule and this is also a seminiferous tubule. Okay, and this is what? This is basically a testicular lobule that is up there. This whole thing is one testicular lobule. You have 250 of them, right? Now listen to me carefully. Here I have made multiple cells, right? Multiple cells. Inside the seminiferous tubules, you have 2 of them. One is smiling, other one is also smiling. Let's see, who are they? So the first guy up here is known as what? Sertoli cells. What do you call them? Sertoli cells. And what do? They are going to nourish the mighty spermatogonia. What do you mean by that? So basically over here, this cell that you see is the spermatogonia, the mother of all the sperm cells. This spermatogonia is later going to undergo further division and form sperms. Now, for it to undergo division, obviously there should be someone to nourish it. You might have seen in movies, there are people who, the big people who are sitting on the crown, right? Similarly over here also, the Sertoli cells are the one that is going to nourish the spermatogonia, which is later going to form the sperms. So these 2 guys are inside the seminiferous tubule. Run. Now over here, when I say sperm formation has to take place, you need to understand that you need hormones also. Without hormones, do you think sperm formation can take place? No, Baba. So there should be someone to produce some hormones as well. Who is that? Who is that, my dear children? These cells. These cells which are in between the seminiferous tubules, my dear children, you call them as Leydig cells. What do you call them? Leydig cell. And Leydig cells are the one which are going to produce what? Your androgens or the male sex hormones. You need to know one more very important thing. This space that you see, okay, it has a specific name. It is known as interstitial space. Interstitial space. Why interstitial space? Space between the cells or the walls out there is known as interstitial space. Now, the cells over here are known as Leydig cells, but you can also call them as interstitial cells. No one is going to kill you if at all you say that they are interstitial cells also. But please know their name. Leydig as well as interstitial cells, know their name. Now, apart from them, do you have anything else in between this? Yes. Now, that also has been a question because most of us do not read our NCERT really well. We miss that up, right? Including me. Don't worry. So over here, my dear children, you have some WBCs also. Okay, WBCs, white blood cells. What do they do? Suppose there are some organisms out there which are going to cause any trouble. WBCs are going to kill them up. So you have some immunological cells. Apart from that, you have also Leydig cells over here. And apart from that, what do you have? You also have some blood vessels up here. So three things in the interstitial space: Leydig cell, WBCs, and what? The blood vessels. So also has some small blood vessels and immune cells. I just spoke about that, right? Got it? So this is also clear. So what did we study until now? We have scrotum, and basically your testis is 2 to 3 centimeter in width and 4 to 5 centimeter in length. Inside your testis, you have 250 compartments known as testicular lobules. Inside that, you have 1 to 3 seminiferous tubules. Inside the seminiferous tubules, you have two things. One is Sertoli cells, which is going to nourish what? The spermatogonia, which is up there. Now, outside the seminiferous tubules, you have interstitial space where you have three things. Leydig cells, okay, which produces the male sex hormone, that is androgens. Apart from that, you have immunological cells. Apart from that, you have blood vessels also. Done, ma'am? Done. Clear. Okay. So over here, are we missing up anything? Let me see. No, location is pelvic region, and just give me a second, I'll make my mobile in silent mode, okay? Okay, perfect. And with that being said, okay, fine. So let's go ahead. So my dear children, all of you who have understood until now, what do you think? Is this video good or bad? If you think it's good, what do you have to do? Click on the subscribe button right now. You will get the videos for all the chapters, and I'm telling you, it's going to be helping you well. Yeah? Fine. Now, listen. Everyone who is preparing for KCET examination, I do not know if at all you're aware about Abhyas test series, but if you are someone who is very new to this channel, you might not be aware of, which is why I'm telling you, there is Abhyas KCET test series where you have 35 mock tests, okay? And there will be chapter-wise KCET PYQs also. So this was a test series that we launched the previous year, thinking that it might help some KCET aspirants. And you know what? It just didn't help them score good marks, but a lot of them got great ranks. Okay, so you know that 3 lakh children appeared for KCET examination, right? And out of that, thousands of them were from are those who took Abhyas KCET test series. We have certain names being put up over here. Prajwal with rank 171, Kiran with rank 443, Deeksha with rank 693, Sachin with rank 934, and the list goes on. So this is not a joke. Okay, so why will I suggest you as of now to take up this test series? Because anyway, you are going to take up something. I'm pretty sure about that. So why not this? Because as of now, the previous year we didn't have the chapter wise KCET PYQs, okay, and the price was also same, it was 1499. We thought that okay, if someone is preparing for their PU2, if they are preparing for their concepts, and now if they want to solve some KCET questions of the same chapter, they can do it if at all they go ahead and watch this. That is exactly why we have put it. And my dear children, all of it will be under exam like condition. So it's not like it's not under exam like condition, it will be. So 60 questions in 60 minutes you would have to do. Now if at all you do not want to do 60 questions, you do not have time, 15 questions in 15 minutes, please do that. Okay, the timer will anyway be there. Okay, so take this up. This is definitely going to help you out. It will be there in the description session, and it's not like a necessity you have to do it. No, I always say this. Please do not trust anyone who is telling you to take up this and this. No, you have to go ahead. You have to check it by yourself. So you're free to do that. So please go ahead and check it out for yourself. And if you think that it is helpful for you, take it up. According to me as a teacher, I think it is definitely going to help you out. Okay, fine. Now let's go ahead and talk about the accessory ducts. So just one thing that we studied, and that was male sex organ, the primary sex organ. Now you should know about the male accessory ducts, as in the things that are going to carry the sperm towards the penis. Penis is what? The external genital organ. So you need to carry it up there. And who does that? It is the accessory ducts. Now over here you have all the picture, but I would not recommend you to go like this. Rather, we will be making a picture for ourselves. So let's get started. Let's get started. So listen to me carefully. Here you have the testis, right? Suppose this is a testis. Over here you have the testicular lobules, agreed? Inside the testicular lobules, what do you have, Baba? You have the seminiferous tubules, agreed? Okay. Fine. Now all of them are going to open up into a duct. And what do you call this duct as? You call this duct as rete testis. Rete testis. So this is going to be the first duct that you need to remember. Now in between that you have tubuli recti, but in NCERT it is not given, so we will not need to learn it. Okay, fine. So we have reached until what? Rete testis. Now the sperm says, I want to get outside the testis, I cannot be here. So basically it wants to exit. E for exit and E for efferentia. So basically over here you have the next duct, which is known as vasa. Are you able to see this? Yes. Vasa efferentia. This is going to be the next duct that we are having. Now you know what? Sadly, the sperms are not able to live like that. So basically they are like, you stay over here until unless I tell you, be in the next duct out there. And do you know what is the next duct? The next duct that you see over here, it is actually 6 meters long, but it is highly coiled. This particular duct is known as, the third one, it is known as epididymis. Epididymis. Please remember, so rete testis, vasa efferentia, and then you have epididymis. From here, you know what? The sperms are basically are going to mature right over here in epididymis. So do not think that the entire sperm has been formed here itself. No. Basically, they are in some phases out there. Basically, when they reach in the epididymis, they are going to mature up there in the epididymis. Later, there should be someone to carry these sperms. Where, ma'am? I'm going to tell you where. So basically, these sperms are going to be carried up. Why carried up? Because, Baba, everything was happening in the scrotum. Now, it has to leave the scrotum and it has to move inside the body, right? Yes. And who does that, Baba? It is vas deferens. So, vas deferens is there. Who is going to transport this sperm towards the body? Okay, so you can remember D for distance also. So it is going to carry the sperm towards long distance. And what is exactly going to happen up over here? Listen. So here what do you have, Baba? Here you would be having the urinary bladder. Okay, the urinary bladder. You know, urinary bladder is connected to our kidneys with the help of what? Ureter. So this is a whole different thing. This vas deferens is going to cover up like this and come up from the back side into the front. So it came up like this. Similarly, you have one vas deferens also over here also. So it came, right? Now, my dear children, basically, over here, I will be talking about the accessory glands also, because I do not have any choice. So, rete testis, vasa efferentia, epididymis, vas deferens, all of them are what? Are the accessory ducts, which are there for carrying things. Now there are some glands. Glands as in something that will be providing secretion to these sperms out there. So let's see, what are those glands? So the first gland right up over here is known as the seminal vesicle. Seminal vesicle. This is the first gland that we are having. Similarly, you have some seminal vesicle on this side. So what can I say? Can I say it's paired structure? Yeah, Baba, it is paired structure. You have two of them, right? Now, basically, this seminal vesicle as well as your vas deferens is going to open up having a common duct. Both of them are opening up in a single duct out there. What do you call this duct? This duct is known as ejaculatory duct. Are you able to see it? You're not able to see it. So I'll write it in black. So it is known as ejaculatory duct. So ma'am, from glands again we came back to duct. Yes. So this is after vas deferens, the fifth duct that you are having is what? The ejaculatory duct. Okay, now the ejaculatory duct is going to open up over here. What is this particular space that you see? Let me talk about that. So basically this space that you're gonna see is known as urethra. And the ending of urethra, the opening of urethra is known as urethral meatus. It is known as urethral meatus. So similarly, Baba, you get ejaculated duct from this side also. Both of them are going to open up into what? The urethra. So, ma'am, the urethra does not appear like this. No, what is this exactly? This is the penis. So basically, what is going to happen up over here is that there are going to be some layers around this. Okay, and the last portion that you have, it is enlarged portion, and you call this enlarged portion as what? Glans penis. You call this as glans penis. And also you need to understand that this glans penis has a loose fold of skin, as in it has just an attachment over here. So basically this particular skin that you see can be moving up and down. This is known as the foreskin. This is known as foreskin. Now you might be wondering, why is it there? So glans penis is richly supplied with so many nerve endings out there, which is why male gets stimulated when the foreskin has been moved up. So over here, they are, where is the pen? Yeah. So over here, what do you have? You have the foreskin. Ma'am, aren't we deviating? We came, arey yaar. Without explaining you this, I cannot explain you anything. So basically, I am explaining you everything about the male reproductive system right over here. And you do not need to be worried. This is how it goes actually. Okay, so listen to me. We started with rete testis, it went to vasa efferentia, from vasa efferentia it went to epididymis. Now from epididymis, vas deferens is going to take it up, and now vas deferens is going to get a secretion from seminal vesicle. This is what? This is a gland. This is not a duct, Baba, this is a gland. Okay, fine, both of them will be opening up into next duct, which is what? Ejaculated duct. So officially after vas deferens, what duct do you have? Ejaculated duct. Now the ejaculated duct is going to open into urethra. Done? Done? Okay. So ma'am, there is only one gland up over here? No, there are basically three glands. First gland is seminal vesicle. First gland that you have is seminal vesicle. What does seminal vesicle do? Seminal vesicle is going to, should I tell that over here? Yes, I'll tell. So seminal vesicle is going to produce some fructose. Why fructose? Because the sperm which is there, it is very, very tired and it needs some energy. So who provides the energy, Baba? It is the fructose that is going to provide the energy to the sperm. Okay, fine, done. Apart from it, there are no other glands? There are. So basically, there is a gland which looks like a donut. It looks like a donut, and through it all the things are going to go. This donut shaped gland that you have, my dear children, it is known as the prostate gland. Prostate gland. And you know what? It is unpaired. It does not have two pairs. It is the unpaired gland out there, and this is known as prostate. Ma'am, what does prostate do? You said fructose is given by what do you call seminal vesicle. Prostate also has some function? Yes, two things. Very important, two things, okay? One thing, so this is also gland, and this is second gland, and what does it do? It gives calcium ions. Apart from calcium ions, some enzymes which are needed, my dear children, for the process of fertilization to happen and everything, you need them. So calcium as well as certain enzymes, calcium and enzymes, both of them are really important for the process of fertilization to happen. So to increase the fertilizing capacity of the sperms, you need the secretion of prostate gland also. So ma'am, only two glands, right? No, one more gland is there. One more chutku gland is there, and this chutku gland, it looks like a bulb, which is why it is known as, and it's right up over here. Okay, before the penis starts, it's right up over here. This gland which is there, it is known as bulbourethral gland. Now are you able to see this? No ma'am. So I'll write in this, it is known as bulbourethral. Don't be worried about spelling, I'll show you. Bulbourethral gland. So ma'am, what does it do? It provides lubrication to the penis. Lubrication as in all the sperms and everything should be carried out easily, which is why it provides what? Lubrication to the penis. And also remember, what is it? It is a paired gland. It is going to be a paired gland. So two of them are paired and one of them is unpaired, and that is prostate. So with this, basically you have learned everything that you needed to know about what? The male reproductive system. So we learned about the primary sex organ initially, then we spoke about the accessory ducts, now we know about the three accessory glands also, and we know about the external genital organ, which is what? Penis. Now one very important thing before I go ahead. So these secretions which are there, the fructose, calcium, enzymes and all the things for lubrication of the penis, what do you call this secretion as? All the secretions put together, you call this as seminal plasma. seminal plasma. Always remember, seminal vesicle is not just going to give you seminal plasma. All three glands together are going to give us what? Seminal plasma. Now, the seminal plasma plus sperm, if at all sperm is also in there, you will now call this as semen. So, seminal plasma plus sperm is known as what? Semen. Have an understanding of that as well. As simple as that. So, seminal plasma plus sperm is equals to semen. Okay, done? Fine. So basically the white thing which is being produced during ejaculation, it's not just sperm but also the fluid out there which you call as seminal plasma. You need to know that. There are conditions where in the seminal plasma there are no sperms at all. It's known as azoospermia. Okay, so in fertility clinic, if at all you obviously have not gone, but yes, I have done my internship out there and I have so many cases where the males, my dear children, had semen but they had no sperm in this fluid out there. Okay, that condition is known as azoospermia. So there are so many technicalities out there. So yes, take care of your health. That's the only thing that I want to tell you. Yeah. So basically, we were over here. Let's just read about the male accessory duct out there. Seminiferous tubules opens into rete testis, agreed. Then vasa efferentia, agreed. Then epididymis, agreed. Epididymis what? Stores sperm, and I already told that it helps in maturation also. Fine. From epididymis, it goes to vas deferens. Vas deferens is going to loop over the urinary bladder, joins the seminal vesicle duct to form what? To form the ejaculatory duct, and opens into what? Urethra. Urethra starts from the urinary bladder, extends through the penis, and ends at the urethral meatus. Function of this particular duct is what? To store and to transport the sperm from the testis to the outside. Done? Yes, ma'am. Done. Now over here, yeah. Now over here, I also have few things about. Just a second. So why is this coming? Okay, I think there is a effect that I added. Anyways, so there is a trick that you can use to remember things, and that is rete sens, vasa bends, epi stores, and vas explores. So rete sens, okay, and vasa, it is going to bend, epi is going to store, and vas is going to explore, vas deferens. So that is what I meant. Or you can remember, Ravi visits every village. So Ravi, R for rete testis, V for vasa efferentia, E for epididymis, and V for vas deferens. Okay, so do not get confused between vas deferens and vasa efferentia. It's two different things. Vas deferens, take it to distance. You can remember like that. Cool. Then let's go ahead. What do we have? We have the accessory glands. We already studied about it also. Let's see. So accessory gland, seminal vesicle is there. It is paired. It secretes fructose. Nourishes what? The sperm. Okay. Prostate gland adds calcium and enzymes to the seminal plasma. Okay. Bulbourethral gland, it is paired and lubricates the penis. Fine. So this is the seminal vesicle. This is going to be what? This looks like paired, but this is not paired. This is your prostate gland, and the Chunnu structure which you see is known as bulbourethral gland. Also one more thing, bulbourethral gland is also known as cow purse gland. What do you call this? Cow purse gland. Cow purse gland. Okay, remember that also. Fine. Now all about the male external genitalia, we studied about it. Male external genitalia is the penis, made up of erectile tissue. Yes, that we didn't study. So it is made up of erectile tissue so that it can inseminate. If erectile tissue is not working properly, do you think insemination can take place properly? No. Glans penis is the enlarged tip. It is covered by what? Foreskin. Done. We are done with this. So over here, what is important for you to remember? That is the question. The question, yeah. So over here, if at all you see, if you have understood this picture properly, that means you're officially done. You're officially done. So this is a male part. If you see the sectional view of it, this is a scrotum, my dear children. From the scrotum, what is going up? This is the vas deferens. Now vas deferens is looping over what? The urinary bladder, and over here you have the seminal vesicle, and then you have the prostate gland, then you have the bulbourethral gland, and it opens up into what? The penis out there. At the back side you have the anus and the rectum and everything. Cool. So you might be asked to draw the sectional view, but by sectional view it does not mean this. So please talk to your teacher. In PU2 the sectional view is usually being asked, but that sectional view, by that they mean you to draw this. Okay, this is a diagram that they are asking you, but please confirm it with your teacher also. This is a question that mostly comes in PU2, be aware. Okay, fine ma'am, since you have explained all about it, let's go ahead and let's see what's in stock. So there's a homework question that I want to give you, and it goes like this. Which one of these is not an accessory gland in the male reproductive system? Prostate gland, seminal vesicle, Cowper's gland, Bartholin's gland. It's your choice. You can put it down in the comment section below. Give me the answer also. Question number 1. The answer is this. Please let me know. That is going to really be helpful, and it's not just one homework. I have multiple questions also. Be aware of that. And for those of you who are worried that ma'am only this many questions, Baba will be coming live, and my live is basically on Saturday at 6 p.m. I'll be coming live covering 2 chapters, that is sexual reproduction and flowering plants, and also human reproduction. So if at all you're someone who have not watched sexual reproduction, go watch it and come for the live. We will solve more amount of KCET questions up there. Okay, fine ma'am. Let's go ahead then with the next thing, that is what? The female reproductive system, and starting with one very important thing out there, which is known as the female primary sex organ. What is the female primary sex organ? In the case of males, it was testis. In the case of female, it is going to be Baba ovary. Okay, it is going to be ovary, and let's see how does it work. So this is how the ovary looks. Okay, so there's an outer region which is known as cortex, and the inner region which you see in red color, my dear children, it is known as medulla. So the cortex, as you can see, it is clear, very much clear. It just have this ball shaped thing. What is it? This is where the egg is being formed. This is where the egg is being formed. You call these structures as follicles. Okay, so the follicles are being developing in the cortex area. What about this? This area will be having high amount of blood vessels, so that you can provide nourishment and everything to the growing follicles out there. So medulla will be having blood vessels, cortex will be having what? The follicles out there. Now this ovary which you see is right up over here. If at all you see the female reproductive system, my dear children, the female reproductive system has 2 ovary which is like this. Okay, it's a paired structure. This ovary is attached to this structure. What do you call this structure as? This is going to be your uterus. From here to here, it is going to be what? Your uterus. So there are some ligaments which is going to attach the ovary to the uterus. Apart from that, you want the whole female reproductive structure to also stay in place in the pelvic region. This is inside the female body, in the lower pelvic region, right? So at this particular point, again, you will be needing some ligaments out there. So there are some ligaments here also. You call them as broad ligaments. Now this is not there in your NCERT, but just you need to know the name. Okay, just understand that there are broad ligaments also which keeps everything in one particular place. So ovary is attached to the uterus with the help of ligaments. Apart from that, all of it is also placed properly with the help of broad ligaments out there. Done. Now, the ovary which is here, this is where the egg is going to be formed. Agreed? Yeah, this is where the egg is going to be formed, and this is where the hormones are also going to be released, which is why I call this a primary sex organ. Why? Because the egg, which is the gamete, and also the hormone. And what are the hormones over here? Let's see. Progesterone, estrogen, these are the common hormones that they are having. So these hormones are also going to be produced up right over here. Now, there should be someone to collect this eggs, right? There should be someone. And who is that? What is the duct over here? So here the name of the ducts is simple. So one duct that you have is known as oviduct. We'll study more about it, okay? So oviduct starts from here and it ends up right over here, and you have 2 oviducts right there and right here. So you have the first accessory ducts that you are having is what? Oviduct. Apart from that, over here, okay, over here the uterus is also going to be a part of that, because this is also going to act like a duct. Why? Because here, through here only the sperm is going to enter. So obviously the portion where the sperm is entering or when the baby is moving out, all of it will be known as duct only. So uterus is also a part of that, right? Now going ahead, what do you have? You have something over here. So you see there is a space right over here, right? There is a flap like thing right over here on both sides. This is known as cervix. This is known as cervix. And this canal, that is space between it, is known as the cervical canal. Cervical canal. And if we later extend it, you have a region over here, plain region. This is known as the vagina. It's the vagina. So basically your oviduct, uterus, cervix, vagina, all of them will be acting like a duct. Okay, got it? Now, so ma'am, we spoke about the duct, accessory duct. There are glands. The glands are there, but in your NCERT, it's not been mentioned, so you do not need to study about it. Okay, ma'am, external genital organ, yes, it is there, and we'll study about all of it in detail. Okay, so as of now we are up over here in the ovary. Let's see the structure of ovary and let's get to know more about it. So over here it's known as primary sex organ. Why? Because it produces ovum, that is the egg, and also the ovarian hormones. Fine. It is located on each side of the lower abdomen, or basically the pelvic region. Each side of the lower abdomen. Fine. The size is important. 2 to 4 centimeter is the size. So over here there is no width and anything given over here. They have directly mentioned 2 to 4 centimeter is the size. So you need to remember this and do not get confused with the male one. Male width is 2 to 3 and 4 to 5 is the length, right? So over here 2 to 4 centimeter is the size and that is being given. And it is connected to the pelvic wall and uterus by ligaments. Pelvic wall as in this wall. I told you there are broad ligaments to connect, right? And it is also attached to the uterus, right? Through what? Through ligaments. Fine. It is covered by thin epithelium enclosing the ovarian stroma. So my dear children, this particular thing that we saw right up over here, just give me a second. Okay, this was the ovarian stroma. The stroma. This stroma is divided into two things, that is medulla as well as cortex. So basically it is saying that there is a thin epithelial layer also which is surrounding it. This is there in your NCERT. Okay, so thin epithelium is there which is enclosing the ovarian stroma. The stroma is divided into two zones, outer cortex and inner medulla. Okay, outer cortex and inner medulla. Now let's see more about it. What do you call this thin epithelium as? It is actually known as germinal epithelium, just for your understanding. Okay, inside the germinal epithelium you have tunica albuginea, again just for your understanding. It provides the structural support. Inside that what do you have? You have the cortex. Now this is given in NCERT. Cortex contains what? It contains the follicles and also some hormones. What about medulla? It is core with blood vessels. There are so many blood vessels out there. That's all. Okay, so thin epithelium and stroma, please remember, stroma is divided into two parts. Remember that also. The size is 2 to 4 centimeter. That's all. Now, all about the accessory ducts. What do you have? As I told, oviducts, uterus and the vagina. Ma'am, cervix has not been mentioned. It's okay. The below part of the uterus is known as cervix, which is why it has not been mentioned. Not be worried. All of them are accessory ducts only. Okay, now let's talk about each of them one by one. The first one, starting with the first one, and that is what? Your oviduct. We also call the oviduct as what? Fallopian tube. What is the length of the fallopian tube? It is almost 10 to 12 centimeter in length. How much? 10 to 12 centimeter in length. Now my dear children, the funnel shaped portion right up over here nearest to the ovary, you call this funnel shaped portion as what? Infundibulum. Infundibulum. And this infundibulum has some finger-like projections right there. You call this as fimbriae. What do you call it? Fimbriae. Why do you think fimbriae is there? For collecting the ovum which are going to be released up there. So fimbriae's function is to collect the ovum and transpose it to the first part, that is known as infundibulum. This is known as the funnel shaped portion. Remember it. Now okay, let's go ahead. After that you have a broad region. This broad region is super important. Okay, super important. What do you call this broad region as? This is known as the ampulla. Ma'am, why did you say that it is important? Because once the egg is being released, this is where it is going to stay. This is where it is going to stay and wait for the sperm to come. Okay, so fertilization, if at all it is going to happen, it is going to happen in the ampullary region. Okay, now the next portion that you have is a bit narrow portion, and what do you call this portion as? You call this as isthmus. So you know what, the previous NCERTs that we had long before, there it was said that fertilization happens in the ampullary isthmic region, but now they have cut it down, changed it to ampullary region only. So you need to understand, in the ampullary region what do you have? You have this fertilization happening, not in the isthmic region, not in the infundibulum as well. Okay, so infundibulum, fimbriae, ampulla, the broad region, and isthmus, the narrow region. I hope that is also clear. Now we go ahead and talk about, and the length is what? 10 to 12 centimeter in length. Now we talk about the uterus. Uterus is pretty much simple. Okay, listen to me carefully. In the case of uterus, my dear children, you have this region which is there. It is known as uterine fundus. It is known as uterine fundus. Now uterus has 3 layers. The outermost layer that you see over here, it is known as perimetrium. Then you have the inner layer that is known as myometrium. Then you have the innermost layer, and that is endometrium. You know, when the fertilization happens up over here, zygote is being formed, single celled. This zygote is going to divide and form the embryo. The embryo is going to roll down, come over here and get implanted into which layer? Endometrium layer. Okay, the endometrium is going to provide the initial nourishment. Later it will be helping in the formation of placenta. Okay, so initial nourishment is provided by endometrium. So this layer always waits for an embryo to be formed. So every single time in the case of female human body, this endometrium layer is going to get thickened. Whenever the ovum is released, okay, this endometrium layer is going to be thickened, and suppose fertilization is not happening, what is going to happen then? The egg along with this thickened layer is going to shed down, and that is known as menstruation, which is why we say out of these 3 layers, only one layer undergoes cyclic changes. And what is that layer? It is the endometrium that undergoes cyclic changes. Now, what is the role of myometrium? Baba, but suppose the baby is being formed over here. Okay, the baby is being formed over here. At some point of time, it has to move out, right? And for moving it out, obviously there is no one who can tell, hey baby, move out. No, right? So basically, under the influence of hormones, the myometrium, that is the muscular layer, is going to undergo contraction, relaxation, and which is why the baby is finally going to move out. So myometrium is the muscular layer, and it is made up of smooth muscles. Smooth muscles are involuntary in nature. It's not under your control. Jasmine, contract, it will not contract. Okay, so it's under the brain's control, which is why we call them involuntary muscles, and they are smooth muscles out there. Okay, and perimetrium is just for covering and providing protection. Fine. Now let me read about it. You will get an understanding of it, and please know the small details about all of them. They are important. Perimetrium is the thin word is being used, thin outer membrane. Okay, myometrium is thick what? Smooth muscle layer. It contracts during delivery. Endometrium is the inner glandular layer, undergoes cyclic changes in the menstrual cycle. So all of them has few function. Perimetrium is thin, myometrium is thick and also has smooth muscles. Endometrium, my dear children, it is the inner glandular layer that we have, and it undergoes cyclic changes. Done? Yes, ma'am. Done. Okay, now over here, listen to me carefully, okay? So this area that you have, the lowermost region of the uterus, this is known as cervix. And the space that you have in between this is known as the cervical canal. And later that, if at all you go ahead, it will be the vagina that opens up. So the penis is going to enter up over here in the vagina, and later going to release the sperm. So sperms are going to enter through here. So the penis can go only until this particular point. Only until this particular point. You need to know that. Okay, now, so basically, suppose a baby is being formed and baby wants to move out. Baby will be moving out through the cervical canal and also the vagina, which is why we say that cervical canal plus the vagina is also known as the birth canal. What canal? Birth canal, because this is where the baby is going to move out from. Got it? Understood? Okay, so uterus, Baba, you have 3 layers. Apart from that, the lower portion is known as cervix. In between, the cervical canal is there, and then you have the vagina. Cervical canal plus the vagina forms the birth canal also. Done? Yes. Done. Okay. Now we talk about the female external genitalia. And this is where all of you get, ma'am, I'm not able to understand anything. So this is simple. Listen to me carefully. So female external genitalia is simple, and why do I say that? So this is the picture. Okay, this picture is not probably given in your NCERT. I have put it out there. So suppose, so how do I explain you? I'll explain you like this by making my own picture. Okay, so suppose the female's legs are being spread. Okay, female's legs are being spread. It will be looking something like this. There are 2 flap of tissues out there, fatty tissues out there. You call this as labia majora. Okay, this is fleshy fold of tissue out there. Labia majora. Okay, and then inside this labia majora, again you will be having fleshy folds of something. It is known as labia minora. Okay, and here guys, there are basically 3 things that you need to know. One is that just a second. This is going to be the vaginal opening. The lowermost one is going to be what? The vaginal opening. Over here, you will be having the urethra, that is the urinary bladder opening out there. And then when both of these labia, the place where both of these labia minora is going to join, you have the erectile tissue. Ma'am, erectile tissue is there in females also? Yes. And what do you call this erectile tissue? It is known as clitoris. It is significantly having high amount of what? Nerve endings, which is why this is known as erectile tissue. It can make the female sexually active. Okay, so you have what? Labia majora, two fleshy folds out there. Inside that you have labia minora, where both of them are coming together. It is known as clitoris. The lowermost region, this is known as vagina, through which insemination is going to happen, through which the baby is going to be born out. And over here you have the urethra. Just at the top of urethra you will be having the clitoris. Then, now one very important thing that I missed while talking about the male reproductive part, in the case of male, the urine as well as the semen is going to travel through the same passage, that is the urethra. But here in the case of females, you have two separate openings, one for urinary passage and one for basically the egg transport and the insemination process to happen. Got it? So these two things are super important. Apart from that, in the case of females, my dear children, at the top you would be having a fatty cushiony layer. A fatty cushiony layer on which you will be having hair, the pubic hair. This fatty cushiony layer is known as mons pubis. It is known as mons pubis. All of them together is going to form what? The female external genitalia. So the fatty cushiony layer up there is known as mons pubis. Then if at all you see from the lower angle, it will be labia majora, then labia minora. Two openings out there. One is vaginal opening, the other one is urethra, and the other one will be clitoris. Okay, it's not opening, it's basically the joining of two of them. And clitoris has what? Erectile tissue. Now one more thing that I want to explain right up over here is that usually in the case of females, over here you will be having a partially covering membrane which you call as hymen. What do you call this as? Hymen. Now in some condition, the hymen can be torn off. For example, if someone is very much active in sports, okay, or in horse riding or cycling, in that particular case, what is going to happen? This partial membrane out there is going to break open, and this is known as hymen. In some, it can still persist. In some females, it can still persist. Okay, so initially, as in long before now, it was considered that if hymen is not there, that means they are not virgins. That means they were active sexually. Okay, so if hymen is there, they were not active sexually, but hymen is not there, that means they have had sexual intercourse. So they thought that virginity is being decided with the help of hymen. But now it is not been considered like that, and this is a frequent question that comes up. Is hymen a sign of sexual activeness? The answer is no. And by the way, why should someone be bothered about anyone's virginity, right? So that is also there. That is a progressive way of what we think. But generally, I am telling you, so hymen is not an indicator of sexual intercourse. So please remember that also. This is also a frequent question that comes up. Okay, cool. So now we are going to read it up and see what is it. So the exact thing I explained, this is how it actually looks. So here you would be having the mons pubis, that is the cushiony layer where you will be having the pubic hair. Here you have the vagina. So this is going to be the labia majora. So this is going to be the labia majora. This is going to be the labia minora. The point where two labia minora are going to come together, it is going to be known as, just a second. This is the labia majora, this is the labia minora. The point where both of them come together is known as clitoris, and just below this you have the urethral opening, and just below this you would be having the vaginal opening. Okay, and it will be covered by the hymen. Fine. So mons pubis is the fatty cushiony, you have to remember this, is a fatty cushiony layer with skin and pubic hair. Labia majora is fleshy folds surrounding the vaginal opening. Labia minora, the inner paired folds beneath the labia majora. Hymen is what? The thin membrane partially covering the vaginal opening, may break due to various activities. Okay, and clitoris is what? The small sensitive structure at the junction of labia minora above the urethral opening. Done. This is what you mean by the female external genital organ or female external genitalia. Done? Done, ma'am. Okay, so now I hope this particular image is also clear to you. What do you have over here, my dear children? So this is the urinary bladder. This is the urinary bladder, and the urinary bladder opens up over here. Okay, so this is the urethra, right? You have, and just behind that, my dear children, as I told you, you have the uterus. This is the uterus. Uterus will be opening into the vagina, and before that, this structure that you have before the urethra is what? The clitoris. It is the clitoris. Now the back side of all of it, you will be having the anus and rectum in the case of females, where the stool is going to pass down. Down. Okay. So if at all you have understood everything that I have taught you until this particular point, as I said, if you're someone who have not subscribed, subscribe to it. If at all you're someone who have not shared the video, share the video. If you're someone who have not clicked on the like button, click on the like button. Okay? So yes, now we go ahead with the mammary glands. Mammary glands are found in the case of females, right? That is why we call them mammals. And the mammary gland structure is also something that you have to remember. So how do you remember it? There is an easy way to remember it. I always tell this trick, that is, there is mat, and on this mat, dal fell. Okay, dal, you know, dal, it fell on the mat. M stands for the mammary lobes. Mammary lobes. How many mammary lobes are there? Almost 15 to 20. So basically, if at all you see the structure, it is divided into multiple lobes out there. In this picture, it's not clear, but I am telling you there will be multiple lobes. What is this lobe? Mammary lobes. How many of them are there? 15 to 20 mammary lobe will be there. Okay. Okay. After that, the mammary lobes, my dear children, will be having so many alveoli. So A stands for alveoli. What is alveoli? This thing that you see over here. Okay, these things that you see over here are known as alveoli. Now, as you can see, the alveoli, basically, they are opening up into something. Here there are two of them, and two of them joins to form one. What is this single thing that you see? Two of them, I said. What do you call one of them? You will call them as tubules. What do you call them? Tubules. So basically, mammary tubules are there. Tubules will be opening up and forming the mammary duct. This is going to be the duct. So over here, let's go back again. So T stands for what? T stands for tubule, ma'am. Okay, done. And tubule, as I said, it is going to open into what? The duct. Fine. So duct. Let's talk about duct now. So this was the, where is it? So these were the ducts. So tubules, they were there and they were opening into the duct. Now if you see, multiple ducts are there. This is duct, this is duct, this is duct, this is duct. All of them are opening up into something. What is this? What is this? This is known as ampulla. And ampulla, my dear children, all of them are going to open up over here. This is known as lactiferous duct. You will be getting at the end lactiferous duct. And lactiferous duct will be ending up in the nipple region. Okay, so D stands for duct. And after duct, ducts are going to open up into what? Ducts are going to open up into ampulla. And ampulla is also going to open up into lactiferous ducts. Lactiferous duct. So please remember this flow, mat and dal. So dal fell on mat. That is what I usually say. So mat comes first, mammary lobes, and ma'am here there are two of them. So ampulla ends with L. So just after that you have L over here. Alveoli. It's not like that. Okay, alveoli you have T over here. I forgot that. Okay, so anyways, so alveoli also has an L. But yes, ampulla has a, what do you call, the L is a bit more prominent out there, so we can remember like that. Okay, I know it does not make sense, but yes. Okay, so yeah. So what happens? It's a paired structure breast with glandular tissue and also fat. 15 to 20 mammary lobes are there with clusters of milk secreting alveoli. Milk stored in alveolar lumen. Inside the alveoli you have alveolar lumen where it is being stored. Alveoli opens into mammary tubules. Tubules open into duct. Mammary duct merge, forming what? Mammary ampulla. And the mammary ampulla forms the lactiferous ducts. This is how it is going to go. Okay. So basically over here, just is a very simple thing. If alveoli you're making like this, suppose you're making two alveoli, okay? So both of them are going to have what? Tubules. The tubule is going to open into what? Duct. Similarly, you will get duct from the other end. These two ducts are going to open into what? The ampulla. The ampulla which is there, it is now going to open, all of them are going to open into what? Into lactiferous duct. So it's like a tree branch that you have to make. So it's not like this diagram is super difficult. PU2 champions, you would have to make this diagram. So make sure you know this. Similarly, female reproductive system is also something that is being asked. Please know these diagrams. But here it's not difficult. You need to understand that. So see this diagram properly, okay? This is the breast that you have. So at the back side, my dear children, you have the ribs. These are basically the ribs that you have, okay? In between the ribs, you have the muscles. So if you see this border thing that you see is a lobe. So you have 15 to 20 lobes out there. Inside each lobe, what do you have? You have alveoli. Make the alveoli, then make the tubules, make the ducts out there, and then make the ampulla, then make the lactiferous duct. Surrounding both these sides, you have what? You have basically fat. This is nothing but the fat. Okay, this is nothing but the fat. So mention that. And areola is basically tissue that is being formed over here. And lastly, you have the nipple. Okay. That is the only thing that you have to mention. Cool? Yes, ma'am. Fine. Let's go. Now, the next topic that we have is spermatogenesis and also oogenesis. From this point onwards, we have to be a bit fast because I think almost 1 hour is done. Yes, so I always think that I have to cover it really fast, but somehow when I start explaining, I feel I should explain more, and it goes up like that. But trust me, everything that I am explaining right over here is definitely helpful for you. Okay? So, spermatogenesis, if at all we talk about that, what do you mean by spermatogenesis? It means the formation of sperms. Where does that happen? Baba, it happens in the case of testis, right? Ma'am, we studied about it. Yes. Okay, fine. So, let's talk about it. I told you there are spermatogonia. Where can I make this diagram? I can make it here. So, there is grandfather of sperms, and that is known as spermatogonia. This spermatogonia, under the influence of Sertoli cells, because Sertoli cells provide nourishment, it is going to undergo mitosis. Mitosis. By the way, what is the number of chromosomes up over here? The number of chromosomes up over here is 2n. It's like a normal cell. It is diploid in nature. 2n means diploid in nature. 2n means diploid. Diploid means basically it has double the amount of chromosomes. So basically 46 number of chromosomes is there. Now when we form these sperms, they are going to be haploid. And haploid ones will be having half of it, that is 23 number of chromosomes. Okay. So here in the case of mitosis, what is going to happen? You get two cells. Okay. One cell is going to again going to divide and form this spermatogonia. What about the other cell? This cell is going to undergo differentiation, as in it is going to have some changes in them, and it is the one that will be leading to form the sperms. So I'll say this cell is the primary spermatocyte. Spermatocyte. You need to understand that this cell which was there, after undergoing mitosis, it also underwent some differentiation, some maturation process, my dear children, such that it formed the primary spermatocyte and it is diploid in nature. And from this point onwards, I am saying that it is going to start forming the sperm. And sperm formation happens with the help of reductional division, that is meiosis. In meiosis happens in two stages. The first stage is like this, where if it was 2n over here, it will become half the number of chromosomes. This is known as the secondary spermatocyte. Secondary spermatocyte. Okay, this is what meiosis 1. I told you meiosis happens in two stages. Again, this cell is going to divide and going to give me 4 cells out there. Ma'am, will it reduce the number of chromosomes again? No. Only in meiosis 1 reduction happens. Here it will be just n, the same number of chromosomes that you have over here. And this is meiosis 2 that is taking place over here. And what are you going to get over here? Ma'am, sperms. No. You call this as spermatozoa. Spermatozoa. And you know what? They are globular in shape, round in shape. Sperms are what? Long in shape, right? So how can that be possible, ma'am? So obviously you need to make some changes out there. You need to understand one very important thing. This whole process that we have learned so far is known as spermatogenesis, that is formation of sperm. Now over here, one very important thing happened. The maturation of spermatozoa, or basically conversion of spermatozoa to the long form of sperms happens. That is, basically we say that we get spermatids. We say spermatids. Oh, wait. I did a mistake. Forget. I did a mistake and I'm so sorry. It is spermatid. It is spermatid that you are going to form over here, and later the long shape of sperm which is there, it is known as spermatozoa. Spermatozoa. Now ma'am, do you have any name for this process? Yes. This process has a name and you should not be getting confused between spermatogenesis and this. It is known as spermiogenesis. What do you call this as? Spermiogenesis. spermiogenesis. And later all of this is going to happen in the seminiferous tubules. So release of this spermatozoa from the seminiferous tubules is known as spermiation. So that is easy to remember. You can remember aviation. Aviation, they are released. Right? Similarly over here also they are released from the seminiferous tubules to the later part of the body. Okay. So spermiogenesis is conversion of spermatids to spermatozoa. Ma'am, how do we remember? You also have forgotten this. How do we remember it? Easy. So why did I correct it right over here is that because there is a small trick. Okay. You know, kids are immature. Small kids, no, they are immature. Similarly, spermatid is like a kid. Spermatid is like a kid. It's immature. If you want to make it mature, that is known as spermatozoa, and this is known as spermiogenesis. Okay, and later it is being removed with the help of spermiation. Fine. At the end, what do you get? You get haploid sperms. From one spermatogonia, Baba, how many sperms do you get? 4 of them. Always remember. From one sperm, one first spermatozoa, you get 4 sperms out there, right? And again, you will be having so many spermatogonia in the body of the males, and there is no end track of it, which is why males, until and unless they are not dying, they can produce what? Sperms. But when does spermatogenesis officially begin? It officially begins when someone hits puberty. Why? Why is it like that? Why only when they reach puberty will they start doing this? Because there are some hormones that are going to play a major role over here. And the story about the mighty hormones is important. So for some people it might be difficult also. Please make sure you listen to me carefully. So let's go ahead. Story about the spermatogenesis and the hormones. So initially, Baba, you have a hormone that is known as GnRH. What do you call it? GnRH. GnRH means gonadotropin releasing hormones. Who releases it? That is even more important. It is the hypothalamus. So hypothalamus, which is out there in your brain, is going to release a hormone that is gonadotropin releasing hormones, and these gonadotropin releasing hormones are going to act on your pituitary gland, which is very, very near to your hypothalamus. And pituitary gland, you need to know it is having 2 lobes, 1 lobe, 2nd lobe. It's not like 2 parts are there, 2 lobe is there, anterior and posterior. It is going to affect the anterior lobe of pituitary gland. The GnRH, it is going to affect the anterior lobe of pituitary gland, and now this pituitary gland is going to release 2 things. One is luteinizing hormone, and the other one is follicle stimulating hormone. What? Luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. You have studied the structure of testes. In the testes, you know seminiferous tubules, and then in between that you have Leydig cells, right? For seminiferous tubules, they are going to form the sperms, but you also need the hormones. Who will tell that Leydig cells have to produce the hormones? This LH. LH is going to act on the Leydig cell, and the Leydig cell will be now producing hormones, especially what you call this as testosterone. So LL you can remember like that. What about FSH? FSH is going to act on Sertoli cells. And Sertoli cells instead are going to produce some factors. ABF, androgen binding factors. That means this is an androgen, and to bind it you have androgen binding factors. But you not need to remember ABF because I know it's too much for you, but no, it's for that purpose. Okay, so I'm just writing some factors. So basically, ma'am, I didn't understand. How is this helping anyway in spermatogenesis? Listen to me. So, inside the seminiferous tubule, what is happening? Spermatogenesis is happening, right? Spermatogenesis is being taken up there. Fine. In this process, you need testosterone. So this guy helps in the production of testosterone. LH helps in the production of testosterone. This testosterone is going to enter and is going to help, but the concentration of testosterone can go low, which is why we need someone to make sure that the level of testosterone is being maintained. And who is going to maintain that? Sertoli cells. When they release some factors, these factors make sure that the level of testosterone is being maintained properly, and that is how the whole process can take place properly. Especially, this is a very important question, especially the last stage, which is known as spermiogenesis, the conversion of spermatids to spermatozoa. This is basically too much hampered if at all the factors are not being released. Okay, So if at all you are asked, if FSH is not being released, which is the stage which is being mostly affected? Spermiogenesis. That means formation of spermatozoa is being mostly affected. I'll tell again, hypothalamus, when we hit puberty, when the males hit puberty, in their body GnRH is going to be released. That is gonadotropin releasing hormones. Now they are going to act on the anterior pituitary gland. It is going to release luteinizing hormone and FSH. Luteinizing hormone LNL, it goes and acts on Leydig cells, produce testosterone. FSH goes and acts. If there is an S over here, S acts on Sertoli cells, right? You can remember like that. And Sertoli cells release some factors. These factors make sure the testosterone which enters, it stays like that only and helps in the whole process, especially in spermiogenesis. Done. This is the only thing that you need to remember. So spermatogenesis starts at puberty due to increased GnRH secretion. GnRH stimulates the anterior pituitary gland to release LH and FSH. LH acts on the Leydig cells, stimulating androgen secretion, that is the male sex hormone, and promotes spermatogenesis. FSH acts on Sertoli cells, stimulation secreting of factors aiding spermiogenesis. Spermiogenesis. As in whole it helps, but majorly spermiogenesis. Cool? Yes, ma'am. Now there comes the structure of sperm. Now the structure of sperm is also important and it's very simple. So listen to me carefully. So over here, this particular region that you see is head. Here you have a small region that is known as neck. This is known as middle piece and this is known as tail. The head can be divided into two regions. One is your acrosome. One is going to be your acrosome. What is acrosome? Acrosome basically contains a lot of enzymes that can break open and get inside the egg membrane. You know, egg which is there, female gamete which is there, it is covered by a lot of membranes out there. So to break open and get inside, you need some hydrolytic enzymes. And who stores that? The acrosome. It's like a rocket out there, okay? And then in the head region, you also have a nucleus. This nucleus is going to be containing haploid number of chromosomes. You know, haploid here, both of them becomes diploid zygote. So it is going to have haploid number of chromosomes. Neck is just tumor there as a connecting link. What do you talk about the middle piece out there? Middle piece basically has lots and lots of mitochondria. Why? Because this mitochondria is going to help with the movement of the tail. And without movement of tail, do you think sperm can move ahead and go into the ample region? No, baba. Which is why it is super important. And all of the structure is covered by plasma membrane. It is covered by plasma membrane. You need to know that. Okay, the diagram can be asked, please know that. So microscopic structure, head, neck, middle piece and tail is there. Head contains haploid nucleus and also acrosome. Acrosome is there for the enzymes for fertilization. Middle piece contains mitochondria for energy. Tail enables sperm motility and ejaculation. How much ejaculation happens? This is a number that you need to remember. So 200 to 300 million sperms, not billion, it is million sperms per ejaculation. 200 to 300 million sperms are there, and out of that at least 60% should be of normal shape and size. At least 60% out of them should be normal shape and size, and out of that at least 40 of them should be motile for fertility. This can be asked. 60 should be motile and 40 should be normal shape and size. No, 60% of them should be normal shape and size, and at least 40% should be what? Motile for fertility to happen. These terms are important. So how much of sperms? 200 to 300 million sperms during ejaculation, per ejaculation, and out of that 60% should be normal shape and size and 40% should be motile for fertility to happen. Done? Yes, done. Okay, now at this point, if at all you want to pause the video and you just want to go and have a quick review about spermatogenesis, I do not mind that. Please do that. Okay, it can be helping you. Let me just drink a little bit of water. You guys also please drink some water. It's super important for hydration to happen. Okay. Okay, let's talk about oogenesis. Okay, oogenesis, my dear children, how do you think that happens? Again, like spermatogonia, over here in the case of females, you have oogonia. But you should understand one basic difference that we have between males and females. That is, oogenesis starts during embryonic stage itself. When, suppose I was an embryo, okay, once. In my embryonic stage itself, the oogenesis had started off. In the case of males, spermatogenesis starts in the puberty, right? But here, it's during the embryonic development. Now again, the same process is being applied over here also. Things are quite different. Listen to me carefully, okay? So you have oogonia, which is diploid in nature. This oogonia undergoes mitosis. You get cells. One cell, suppose this one, undergoes differentiation and later forms your primary oocyte. This primary oocyte which is there, from this point onwards, it is going to undergo meiosis. Remember, it undergoes meiosis. Suppose I say it underwent meiosis. This is meiosis number 1. What do I get? I get 2 cells, but you know what? Here you can clearly see that I made 1 small cell and 1 big cell. Why? Because that is going to happen. The 2n becomes reduced to half. Okay, here also half. But the cells are not of equal size. All the cytoplasm which was there over here is taken up by this cell. Why? Because this is the one that is going to undergo meiosis number 2. What about this, ma'am? It does not undergo meiosis. This is known as your first polar body. It's known as the first polar body, and it does not undergo meiosis. It's just there. It might be degenerated later on, right? Okay, that means we have to proceed with 1. Yes. So let's see. Let's proceed with 1. Again, it undergoes meiosis, and you know what? Again, the same thing. All the cytoplasm goes up there, and here you do not have anything. What do you call this as? This is known as the second polar body. By the way, what do you call this? This was the primary oocyte. What do you call this? This is going to be your secondary oocyte. Secondary oocyte. A secondary oocyte, when it undergoes meiosis number 2, again it's an unequal division. You get 1 cell big, 1 cell small, which is of no use. What do you call this cell? This is your ovum. This is going to be your ovum. So if at all you have noticed, from 1 spermatogonia, technically you get 4 sperms. What about the ovum over here? From 1 oogonia, you get only 1 ovum. There is a difference in the ratio, and this ratio related questions can be coming up. Okay, now again I'll revise. Oogonia undergoes mitosis. Some of them differentiate to primary oocyte. The primary oocyte undergoes meiosis. 2 unequal division happens. Basically, one is going to be polar body, first polar body. Second one is the secondary oocyte. Secondary oocyte going to undergo second meiotic division. And what exactly happens? Again, unequal division, and you get the ovum. But in the case of females, all of it is not going to happen all at once. It's going to have some resting period. I told you the oogonia, they form in the embryonic stage itself. Oogenesis starts off, right? So until this particular point, that is until the formation of primary oocyte, everything happens in your embryonic stage itself. After that, when I say it started undergoing meiosis, it is not able to complete the process of meiosis. It gets stuck. It gets basically stuck over here. So meiosis happens in 4 stages: prophase, metaphase, anaphase and telophase. And this is prophase 1, metaphase 1, anaphase 1, telophase 1, because this is meiosis 1, right? So primary oocyte, it wants to undergo meiosis but gets stuck in the prophase 1 itself. It is not able to complete it. It is not able to complete it. When will it complete it? When we hit puberty. So it starts off, but it gets stopped between. You get it? You get it? So let's see. So begins during embryonic development. A couple of million oogonia, that is the gamete mother cell, forms in the fetal ovary. That means the baby's ovary. No new oogonia are added after birth. So none of them are going to be added after birth. Initially, whatever was there, that's all. That's all. That is the difference between again spermatogonia and us. There you have multiple spermatogonia, here there is no. There's limited amount of oogonia which was there, and there won't be any oogonia which will be formed thereafter. Okay. Oogonia enters prophase 1 of meiosis and get arrested, becomes primary oocyte. So basically this stage is known as primary oocyte, or I can just say primary oocyte was there, it went and arrested in prophase 1. That is also correct. Now, basically, what exactly happens to this primary oocyte? From this point onwards, it's super important. So the primary oocyte which is there over here, which is stuck, basically will be surrounded by layer of granulosa cells. Will be surrounded by layer of granulosa cells. And now you will call this as what? A follicle. You will call this as the primary follicle. And how many follicles do we have? Many follicles we have from birth to puberty. But when we hit puberty, you know what? Only 60,000 to 80,000 primary follicles are there per ovary. 60,000 to 80,000 per ovary follicles will be there. One here, one here. Okay, 2 ovaries are there. In that 60,000 to 80,000 here, 60,000 to 80,000 over here. These are the primary follicles which are left behind until we reach puberty. So that is why when they end up, that's when we say that a person has menopause. They do not have any menstrual cycle now because there are no egg to be released. You get it? Now, the primary follicles which are there, they will turn into secondary follicles. Once we reach puberty, what is going to happen? The primary follicle which was looking like this, which had a layer of granulosa cells, will be now transforming into secondary follicle. How? How is it going to transform? Basically, it will have more layers of granulosa cells. It will be having more layers of granulosa cells, and apart from that, there will be one more thing, that is one theca layer. There will be one extra layer, that is one theca layer. So the primary follicle which is there, which is having the primary oocyte, first was primary follicle. Okay, now basically some more granulosa cells came and attached, and basically one more theca layer came into action. And now, my dear children, what will I call this structure as? I will call this as the secondary follicle. So you should understand, nothing inside is being changing, only outside portion is changing. Okay, inside you still have primary oocyte which is stuck in prophase 1 stage. Now, my dear children, once the secondary follicles are being formed, as I said, more layer of granulosa cells and a theca layer formation happens. Now what happens? The secondary follicles, whenever hormones are there, they are going to transform into tertiary follicle. Now the same image, remember it, granulosa cells, theca layer was there. Inside that you had the primary oocyte which was stuck in prophase 1. Now I am going to transform it into the next page, and it looks like this. Listen, you had the primary oocyte right up over here, which was in 2n condition, right? And you had the granulosa layers. This was the primary follicle. Now when you added few more layers of granulosa, it was now converting into a secondary follicle. And also not just that, you had a theca, right? This was a secondary follicle. Now we are going to transform it into a tertiary follicle. So what exactly happens in tertiary follicle? Basically, few changes happens. One very important thing, the theca layer differentiates into inner theca interna and outer theca externa. So this is the outer theca layer and this is the inner theca layer. Okay. Apart from that, few more granulosa cells, and apart from that, there will be a cavity that is going to be formed. A cavity and a few more granulosa cells. What do you call this cavity as? This cavity is antrum. This is known as antrum. This is inner theca and this is outer theca. So ma'am, only outside layer is thinking nothing is happening inside. It happens. In this tertiary follicle, for the first time, the primary oocyte which was stuck in the stage is going to undergo division, that is meiosis 1, and produce two cells. I told you, what is a two cell? One first polar body and the second one is what? The secondary oocyte. So basically, something is changing up over here, and what is that? You get a first polar body which is haploid in nature, and also you get what? The first secondary oocyte. This is what? Your secondary oocyte. So the first meiotic division happens in the tertiary follicle only. Okay, this is now the secondary oocyte which is haploid in nature. Done. Now, under the influence of hormones, again, this particular follicle is going to undergo transformation and becomes what? It becomes the Graafian follicle. What is the structure of Graafian follicle? So Graafian follicle is going to be big and mature follicle. So over here, this is going to be small, but don't worry, okay? I'll explain you what is needed. So you have the secondary oocyte, right? Secondary oocyte is still there. It is haploid. Let's forget about the polar body. Let's think that it got degenerated, right? Now, my dear children, the change that is going to happen starts from here. The secondary oocyte which is there, it is going to make one layer around it. It's very important. One layer around it. This time every change is happening inside, more of it. This layer is known as zona pellucida. Zona pellucida. And you know what? It is not made up of any cells. It is not made up of any cells. It is a cellular layer. A cellular layer. Okay? And apart from that, this was made by secondary oocyte itself. Secondary oocyte made it. Apart from that, the granulosa cells makes one more layer around it. It is known as corona radiata. Corona radiata. So zona pellucida made by itself, corona radiata made by the granular cells. All of it is there. So when I say the Graafian follicle is up there, and when I say suppose ovulation is going to happen, the egg is going to be released, it's not the ovum that is going to be released. You know, ovum is going to be formed just before fertilization. The secondary oocyte will be stuck. Okay, will be stuck again. Okay, this guy also will be stuck again in the meiotic phase. Okay, and until and unless the process of fertilization is going to happen, it is not going to divide. So basically, when I say egg is being released, I mean that secondary oocyte is being released during ovulation. And when it is released, it has zona pellucida around it. It also has corona radiata around it. Now when the sperm comes, sperm has to move towards the corona radiata, get inside the zona pellucida, and then my dear children, when it reaches out there, the secondary oocyte finally divides and forms the ovum, and that's when fertilization will be happening up. Okay, so over here you have this, and apart from that, we already know the granular cells will be there. There will be bigger antral cavity and everything that is there in the Graafian follicle. Graafian follicle is the mature form of follicle which is out there. Okay, so secondary follicle to tertiary follicle develops a fluid-filled cavity, that is antrum. In tertiary follicle, you saw there was antrum, fluid-filled cavity. Theca layer differentiates into inner layer interna and theca externa. And primary oocyte completes meiosis 1, as I told you, and produces what? Secondary oocyte. Okay, haploid secondary oocyte retains most of the cytoplasm for future embryo nourishment, and the first polar body is small and may degenerate also. Okay, Graafian follicle development and ovulation. Tertiary follicle matures into Graafian follicle, the fully mature follicle. Secondary oocyte forms the zona pellucida, a protective glycoprotein layer. It is what? Glyco, as in it is made up of carbohydrate, glyco, and protein also. Graafian follicle ruptures and ovulation occurs. When the Graafian follicle ruptures, that's when ovulation occurs. When I say ovulation has occurred, when I say egg is being released, it's not ovum. It's basically secondary oocyte, which is having its own zona pellucida, the acellular layer, and also corona radiata. Done? Yes, ma'am. And then finally comes in all of this, and my dear children, at this particular point, we need to have a comparison between spermatogenesis and oogenesis. So what exactly is spermatogenesis and oogenesis, how they are different? I told you in the case of spermatogenesis, from one spermatogonia you get 4 sperms. Here in this particular case, from one ovum you get, one oogonia you only get 1 ovum. Spermatogenesis starts what? At puberty. Oogenesis starts at embryonic stage itself. Got it? Got it. That's all. Nothing else. Okay? Now, all about the menstrual cycle. This is also something that all of us get confused in. It's simple. It's just that we human beings complicate it. It's simple. Listen to me carefully. Again, if at all you want to take a pause, you can. Because I know it might be too much for you. I teach, so I know that yes, it's like everything is inbuilt in my memory now. But for you, it might be new, and I really understand that, which is why I'm telling you, if at all you want to pause and just go through, you can. Don't make notes now. Just go through it, okay? Okay, so the reason behind mood swings in the case of females is what? Menstrual cycle. So my dear children, menstrual cycle, lot of hormones are going to go up and down, and you're going to see that, which is why females are generally prone to have what? Mood swings. So the first time a person has menstruation, it is known as menarche. Okay, the first menstruation. And menstrual phase, which is there, okay, that is known as menarche, and the end of menstrual cycle is known as menopause. Usually it happens when someone is almost touching their 50s. Okay, each menstrual cycle which is there, we assume that it is almost up to 28 days. 28 days, 28 or 29 days is the cycle that is going to happen. Now in that you have multiple phases, and after you learn the menstrual cycle with me, there is no one in this world who can confuse you guys. As simple as that. Okay, so your whole attention should be here when I teach you this. Let's begin. So I'm assuming this is 1st of Feb. And yeah, 1st of Feb, that's all. So 1st of Feb, my dear children, suppose you have started menstruating, your blood is being flowing down. This phase is known as menstrual phase. Why is your blood being flowing down? Because you need to understand the inner layer that you had in the uterus, that is basically getting shed down. The endometrium is getting shed down. And there are 2 hormones which are responsible for this. One is estrogen. Another one is progesterone. Both of them are responsible for this. Why? Because they were responsible for maintaining the endometrium. They were the ones who were saying that yes, endometrium can be there, endometrium can be there. They will maintain it. But now their level is too less. And when that level is too less, can they maintain it? No, Baba. That's when the endometrium is going to shut down, when these two hormones are really less. These two hormones that you see are released by or secreted by your ovary, which is why I'll call this as ovarian hormone. So this is what? Ovarian hormone. Now, these two guys have an enemy, actually two enemies. And you know what is their name? Their name is LH and FSH, luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. Yes, they are there in the case of females also. And they are pituitary hormone. They are released by the pituitary gland. We studied about it, right? So basically, whenever the level of estrogen and progesterone goes down, that's when the endometrial layer is going to shut down, and it almost takes up to 5 days. Up to 5 days that the whole menstrual, whole endometrium gets shut down. And seeing this opportunity when these two guys are low, LH and FSH is slowly going to increase their amount. Slowly, they start increasing their amount. That is the menstrual phase. So menstrual phase, these two guys are low. Slowly FSH and slowly FSH and LH are going to increase their amount. Fine. Now we reach the next phase. So 5 days shedding down of your endometrium has taken place. Okay. Now later, after that, you have the next phase where you enter, and that phase is known as follicular phase, or it is also known as proliferative phase. Why do you call these phases like this? Listen. So under the influence of LH and FSH, FSH stands for follicle stimulating hormone. That means the primary follicles which are there are now going to turn to secondary follicles. Secondary follicles are now going to turn into tertiary follicles. Tertiary ones are now going to turn into Graafian follicle. Maturation of follicle is happening under the influence of what? These guys. Because these guys are the ones which are governing it, which are increasing now, right? So basically, the primary follicles are there, are maturing into secondary follicle, secondary into what? Tertiary follicle, and tertiary will be falling into what? The mature follicle, which is Graafian follicle, which is why I'll call this as the follicular phase. And by this particular point of time, the level of FSH and LH has also increased. During this particular starting point, they have totally increased. And now you know what happens? When the follicles are developing right over here, when I say that the follicles developing, there will be granulosa cells. And these granulosa cells, my dear children, you know what? They are going to release estrogen. They will be releasing estrogen. So out of nowhere, the estrogen comes into play. So pituitary glands, hormones tell the follicles to develop. But the follicles in turn, which are found in the ovary, they are going to release the ovarian hormone, that is estrogen. So estrogen level was down, that's why the endometrium shut down. Now slowly, the endometrium which was shut down, there is a new endometrium layer which is going to be formed. The new endometrium layer is going to be formed, which is why it is also known as proliferative phase. Got it? So FSH and LH was slowly increasing. That's when the estrogen came into picture. Now when estrogen is there, do you think they can increase? No. They will slow down a bit. They are going to slow down a bit, which is why only one follicle is doing. It's not like multiple follicles are going to form the Graafian follicle. No. Multiples of them are trying to mature, but only one will be going ahead and forming the Graafian follicle. Okay. So over here, that is happening. Now there will be a level. There will be a level where the estrogen amounts goes really up. It goes really up. Because why? Because the Graafian follicle is being made and the follicles are generating estrogen. At this particular point of time, something very unusual happens. And what is that thing? Basically, usually when estrogen is there, FSH and LH will be down. But at this point, when the level of estrogen is way too much, the opposite of it happens, and LH and FSH is going to shoot up, especially LH. And this is known as what? The LH surge. It is known as LH surge, where exactly the Graafian follicle is now going to rupture. It will be rupturing. Okay, the Graafian follicle will now rupture and release what? Release the secondary oocyte which was there, which was stuck. So secondary oocyte with its zona pellucida and corona radiata are going to be released over here, and this phase is known as ovulatory phase. And by this time we have reached half of the days. So from 1st February we started and we have reached half the cycle. So I say ovulation basically happens at the half time, that is basically on the 14th day. On the 14th day, suppose the cycle is of 28 days. On the 14th day, half of 28 is 14, right? Secondary oocyte is going to be released, and that is your ovulatory phase. Got it? So first of all, menstrual phase, both of them are down. Seeing this, the pituitary hormones are slowly going to increase their amount. Since both of them are down, basically the endometrium is shedding down. Slowly, under the influence of FSH and LH, when these follicles are generating, these follicles are also releasing estrogen. And since estrogen is there, their level goes down a bit. But when the estrogen level goes high, why high? Because the follicles are releasing enough amount of estrogen. The LH and FSH is going to attain a surge, especially LH. And LH surge is going to make the Graafian follicle rupture and release what? The secondary oocyte. This is known as the ovulatory phase. Now listen to me carefully. Whatever is left behind in the Graafian follicle, secondary oocyte is released. Okay, fine. Secondary oocyte is waiting for the sperm to come. That is okay. But over here, at this particular time, whatever is left behind here, this has a specific name. You call this thing as the corpus luteum. What do you call this as? Corpus luteum. And this corpus luteum is maintained like this with the help of LH, because LH was the one whose amount got increased and it led to the Graafian follicle rupture and everything, right? So who maintains it? It is the LH that is slowly, low-key maintaining the corpus luteum. The corpus luteum, my dear children, again, whenever LH and FS support something, opposite of it happens to them, right? So this corpus luteum is now going to release two hormones. One is your progesterone and other one is your estrogen again, especially progesterone. And you know what? Progesterone is the one that is going to make the endometrial layer even more thicker. It was this thick, now it is going to be very much thick, and not just thick, it is going to start off secreting some very important things. Why secretion? Because suppose the secondary oocyte came up and in contact with some sperm out there, the secondary oocyte and sperm will form the zygote will roll down and come over here in the endometrium, and they have to provide nourishment in the form of what? Glycogen and things like that. That is why we say that it has started secretion also, which is why we call this phase as secretory phase. Why? Because under the influence of progesterone, estrogen, and especially progesterone, the endometrium is thickened and now it is releasing something. You also call this as luteal phase. Why? Because the corpus luteum is playing a major role over here. Now you need to understand one very important thing. Okay, ma'am, so everything is fine only. So how do you think this happens? How do you think, when does the level of estrogen and progesterone go low? So listen to me carefully, okay? Slowly, it waits for some days, okay? It waits for almost 7 days out there, and after 7 days, after the egg waiting period is being done, what exactly happens is that, since the progesterone level is there, the progesterone tells the hypothalamus and everything to stop the secretion of LH and FSH. I do not want to see LH and FSH. I have told you several times, please stop their secretion. When the amount of LH and FSH is going to go low, do you think corpus luteum is going to be maintained? Corpus luteum is the one which was maintained by LH, right? Now this guy is not going to be maintained. If corpus luteum is not there, progesterone, estrogen level is going to go down. And when their level go down over here, by the end of cycle, again you get the menstrual phase. You get it? So corpus luteum was maintained by LH. Now this corpus luteum was releasing progesterone, estrogen. After some point of time, progesterone negatively says that I do not want LH and FSH. And if LH is not there, there is no one to maintain corpus luteum. If corpus luteum is not there, progesterone itself is not going to be there. Progesterone didn't know about this. That is why it did. And now their level goes down and the whole thing repeats off again. I hope this is clear. And on the 20th day again. Fine. So listen to me carefully while I read about this also. So menstrual phase is 3 to 5 days, shedding of the endometrial lining off if no fertilization has taken place. If fertilization has taken place, suppose, my dear children, if fertilization has taken place, what is the change that is going to happen over here? We need to maintain the endometrium. That means progesterone, estrogen should be there. Who does that now? It is not the LH who is going to maintain the corpus luteum. There is going to be some other hormone. You might have heard about that hormone. It is known as HCG. human chorionic gonadotropin, HCG hormone secreted by the placenta. By this time, slowly the placenta formation also will be starting up, slowly, okay. Slowly, when someone is pregnant, my dear children, HCG secretion is going to happen. Now, HCG initially is not secreted by placenta, it's secreted by something else. So, HCG is going to maintain the corpus luteum, and that's how progesterone will also be maintained. That's how endometrium will also be still there. And menstrual phase is not going to happen up there. Okay, so yes, so follicular phase is primary follicle matures into graphene follicle. Endometrium is going to regenerate, that is why it is known as proliferative phase also. FSH and LH level rises. Estrogen secretion also increases and increases to a point that it leads to what? LH surge, that is ovulatory phase, day 14. Ovulation happens, release of ovum also takes place. Luteal phase, secretory phase. Graphene follicle makes corpus luteum, secretes progesterone for endometrial maintenance. Yeah, corpus luteum secretes progesterone. If no fertilization, corpus luteum degenerates and new cycle starts. Pregnancy, menstrual cycle stops. Why stops? Because I told you there is another hormone to maintain the corpus luteum and to give enough secretion of progesterone. That's why. Menopause happens in 50 years. Always remember, it's not like on the 14th day itself ovulation is going to happen. No. So, starting from day 10 to day 17. Starting from day 10 to day 17, we say it's a fertile period. Why? Because at any point ovulation can happen. That is why there are people who basically undergo sexual intercourse and they were not expecting a child, but they have the child. Why? Because they are not careful about the fertile period or the fertile window out there. Listen, and you see so many hormones are jumping here and there, and you expect women to be really sweet to you all the time. No, that is not possible. Okay, so obviously mood swings are there, and it's because of the physiological nature of how a woman is being built. So if at all you see your mother being very sad or being angry, please forgive her, please talk to her, okay, and ask her if at all she is fine. Okay, fine. So over here, okay, I have to finish this. Okay, so menstruation happened, follicular phase. So see, menstruation, the level is going down. You have ovarian hormones, their level is also very less during this particular period, and the developing follicles are there. Why? Because the FSH and LH is slowly increasing, and slowly they increase off, and at this particular point of time, as the follicles are maturing, they are releasing progesterone, which is why estrogen. That's why only that secretion is increasing, and which is why endometrium is also slowly being formed, proliferative phase, right? Now what happens if you see the progesterone? It is less. Okay, now slowly what happens when the estrogen level goes up here, LH and FSH also goes high, especially LH, and that's when ovulation happens, and that's when secondary oocyte is being released out there. Now whatever is left behind is known as corpus luteum. It is maintained by the LH only, and over here corpus luteum is going to release what? Progesterone. So you see a spike in progesterone and also estrogen, but mainly progesterone, and that makes the endometrium even more thicker. Okay, so this is how things are going to work. I hope this is clear. Okay, did you understand it? And now I have a question for you guys to try, so that you get to understand whether you actually got the concept or not. And be very careful, this is a very tricky question. From the following table, select the option that correctly characterizes various phases of menstrual cycle. This came in KCET. So menstruation phase, regeneration of endometrium. Menstruation phase is when the endometrium falls down. You call this as menses. The fall down of breakdown of endometrium out there. You call this as menses. So either it can be this or it can be this. It cannot be this. Okay, cancel it out. Next thing, follicular phase. In follicular phase, developing corpus luteum. Corpus luteum has no role to play during this particular time. LH surge, yes. At the end of follicular phase, it's not like in between the follicular phase LH surge is happening. No, at the end of follicular phase LH surge can be happening. So if you compare this and this option, obviously this one would be even more better. Now what about luteal phase? Luteal phase is basically where the follicle maturation. Follicle maturation should have been happening over here. So this is anyway wrong. You have regeneration of the endometrium. In the luteal phase, yes, it regenerates. The endometrium regenerates really well under the influence of what? Progesterone. So yes, this is going to be your answer. Okay? Yes, ma'am. Now I have a small question for you. Implantation is influenced by, as in implantation means embryo going ahead and getting implanted into the endometrium. This is influenced by FSH, progesterone, LH or relaxin. Relaxin is a hormone that is released by ovaries so that your ligaments are relaxed and the baby can move out. That has nothing to do with this. So since that has not been taught, I explained about it. What about others? Pick up the answer and let me know. This is question number 2. This question came in 2017 KCET. Okay, implantation is influenced by, and all of you who are confused with the answer, do not worry, I'll come up with the answer for these questions in the live. Okay, so yes, and please let me know the answer. Just think, for implantation to happen you need endometrium. For endometrium to be there you need something, and what is that something? Think. Okay, now let's talk about fertilization process, all about fertilization. Don't worry, the chapter is soon going to end. So my dear children, insemination happens first. Finally, they met. Yeah. So semen is released into the vagina during copulation. Into the vagina during the copulation process. Sperm swim through the cervix, uterus, ampulla of the fallopian tube, because here is the place in the ampulla where the ovum has been there. Fertilization. Sperm bind to the zona pellucida, blocking entry of other sperm. Okay. Acrosomal enzyme helps sperm penetrate the ovum. Secondary oocyte completes meiosis, forming a haploid ovum and the second polar body. Haploid nucleid of the... Okay, ma'am, I didn't get anything. Listen to me carefully. So over here, if at all you remember, you had the secondary oocyte. This was in haploid stage, right? You had zona pellucida around it. And basically you also had one more very important thing, and that was what? Corona radiata. Agreed? What happened? The sperm came into the picture. This is the sperm. Sperm basically cleaved through the corona radiata. It came up in the zona pellucida. So many sperms are going to come. You remember 200 to 300 million sperms are being released. Out of that, 60% should be normal shape and size. 40% should be normal motility. They came. So many of them came. Only one was there. The best of them was able to basically penetrate through the zona pellucida. The acrosomal enzymes which are there, they will help in the breakdown of this zona pellucida out there in some location. Not like the whole thing went away, no. In some portion it's not there, and basically because of that, this particular sperm is able to now enter over here. It reached over here, you had what? Secondary oocyte. In the sperm, what do you have? You have the haploid nucleus. This is also haploid, but this is secondary oocyte. It has to undergo one more meiosis. Remember, it was stuck in meiosis stage. It has to undergo one more meiosis to give ovum as the second polar body. At this point, when all of them are really, really close and they get signals, my dear children, what is going to happen? Basically, the secondary oocyte which is there, it is going to undergo division and form one ovum and one second polar body, and this ovum and the sperm is going to fuse. You also need to understand, once a sperm penetrates to the zona pellucida and gets inside, the zona pellucida layer gets very, very thick so that no other sperm can come. Okay, so if at all you are asked, when does meiosis happen? After fertilization, before fertilization? You only think. For fertilization to happen, you need ovum, baba. You need ovum. So obviously meiosis is going to happen before fertilization process. Before they finally meet, you have to have the meiosis being done already, and that happens almost when the sperm is very, 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 very close. Okay, got it? Now there is one more question. Degeneration of zona pellucida occurs after fertilization, before fertilization? After fertilization. After they both have fused together and you get the zygote, slowly this particular zona pellucida layer that is there, it will be going off. It needs some time, needs some days, it will be going off then only. Okay, so after fertilization, zona pellucida is going to go. Until fertilization has been done, zona pellucida is like thick layer that is there. It does not allow any sperm to get inside. Okay, and after fertilization, it's not like just after fertilization. It will take some time. So always when these type of questions come, think for a second. Use that little common sense that we all have, and then only try to solve this. Okay, so insemination is semen. I told you. Sperm binds to zona pellucida. I hope you got it. Blocking the entry of other sperms. Acrosomal enzymes help the sperm to basically penetrate the ovum are there. Now, secondary oocyte completes meiosis, forming a haploid ovum and a second polar body. Haploid nuclei of the sperm and the ovum fuses to form what? The diploid zygote. Now what? Now what is going to happen? But how did they meet? I already told about this. Jasmine, talk about sex determination over here. Oh, yes. Yes. So that is a reminder for me, because your Jasmine ma'am has low memory, okay? So ZY and ZZ. So suppose, my dear children, sperm is carrying Sperm is carrying Y chromosome and the egg is carrying X chromosome. So X and Y comes together, it forms XY in the zygote. What is this? This is going to be a male. Suppose sperm is carrying X chromosome and the female egg will only carry X chromosome because she just have that. So both of them come together, this will be a female child. Okay, so basically if at all we see, this is the male composition of genetics and this is the female composition. Males can produce two type of gametes, X or Y. Females can produce only one type of gamete, that is X only. So suppose she produced this, male produced this, it will be XY, it is going to be a male. She produced this, male produced this, it is going to be XS, she is going to be a female. So there's a 50% chance of a male to be produced, 50% chance of a female to be produced. So once first child is girl child, second child will be girl or boy, we never know, it can be 50-50% chance. Got it? And who is blamed for sex determination? Females. Okay, it was said that females are the one who is responsible for the sex of the child. No, Baba, it's the males. Okay, just know that genetically. Cool. Now we see the cleavage towards the uterus. Cleavage towards the uterus as in the movement of sperm towards, movement of the zygote towards the uterus. This process is known as cleavage. So basically what is happening, you have a single-celled zygote over here, right? This single-cell zygote which is being formed has one nucleus. This zygote is going to divide into two cells. Okay, cytoplasm content is going to be less over here. Cell shape and everything should be matched. Okay, cytoplasm content become less. Again, the cell divides, mitosis. They are undergoing mitosis into 4 cells. Then they will form 8 cell stage. Now this 8 to 16 cell stage that you have, you've basically, once it has left being a single cell, it has now become a 2 cell condition. We say that it's now an embryo. In embryo, you have multiple stages. One stage of embryo is known as morula. Morula. And how many cells are going to be there? There are going to be almost, there are almost going to be 8 to 16 cells. Ma'am, do you have any name for these cells? Yes, these cells are known as blastomeres. They are known as blastomeres. This is super important for you to know that. Okay, blastomeres are being formed. This is morula. Where is this happening, Baba? This is happening up over here. In the fallopian tube, they are moving. They are not rolled up down. Again, we have reached morula over here. Morula is also going to keep on dividing. You get multiple stages, but one famous stage is there where the embryo finally goes and get implanted. This stage is known as blastocyst stage. Ma'am, do we need to remember it? Yes. So they can ask you, in which stage does the embryo gets implanted out there? It is blastocyst stage. And what is so unique about blastocyst stage that, ma'am, we need to remember? The thing that is unique is that it has outer layer of cells which you call as trophoblast. Trophoblast. And it also has the inner layer of cells which is known as inner cell mass. So inner cell mass is there and outer layer of cell is there, that is known as trophoblast. Okay, so ma'am, it is going to get implanted over here. Yes, it is going to get implanted. This stage is known as what? Implantation. Okay, so you had cleavage, that is division happening. What do you call these cells as? Blastomeres. Morula is the stage when you have 8 to 16 blastomeres. It's still in the fallopian tube. Slowly it is getting rolling down, dividing. It comes to a stage where it is forming blastocyst. It has outer trophoblast and inner cell mass. Now listen to me carefully. Okay, now listen to me carefully. That is. So, yes. Do we have a picture? No. So, over here, where is your uterus? Right? In the uterus, you have the endometrium lining out there. Agreed? Agreed. You have the trophoblast now, the outer cell mass, and basically you had the inner cell mass. Listen to me carefully. The trophoblast layer which is up there, it is now going to form something like this. It is going to form finger-like projections over here. So trophoblast layer is forming finger-like projection which you call as chorionic villi. Trophoblast layer is forming chorionic villi. From the mother's side, you already had endometrium, and basically we say that mother's tissue will be there. Mother's uterine tissue will be there over here. filling up the spaces like this. And basically, both of the structure together form something super important which you call as placenta. What do you call it? Placenta. So basically, from the embryo side, you had trophoblast, which forms chorionic villi. From the mother side, there are some uterine tissue, which together forms what? The placenta. And now listen to me carefully. What happens to the inner cell mass? Inner cell mass is something that is actually going to form the fetus. Is actually going to divide and form the fetus. This is going to provide the nourishment. You need placenta to provide nourishment. Endometrium is there, that is there, but you need a stricter source of nourishment, and that is going to be the placenta. So basically, the inner cell mass right up over here is now going to form the fetus. So now the picture is going to look something like this. Listen to me carefully, okay? The picture, if at all you see, it's going to look something like this. You have the baby out there, and you have the placenta. This placenta was formed both by the uterine tissue as well as the embryonic tissue. And this connection that you have is known as what? The umbilical cord. The umbilical cord. Here you have so many blood vessels out there. These blood vessels go up there in the placenta, takes in what is important, gives out what is not important. Okay? Now listen to me carefully. Placenta which is there, it is a temporary endocrine gland. Temporary endocrine gland means it is not there going to be forever, and it is endocrine means it is going to be releasing hormones. Okay, and it is not going to release forever, just during pregnancy. And what are the hormones? There are 4 hormones, the names of it which you need to know. One is HCG, we studied about it, human chorionic gonadotropin. That is the one that maintains the corpus luteum. I told you. And that corpus luteum gives progesterone. That progesterone maintains the endometrium for the implantation process and everything to happen smoothly. Okay. What about after that? HPL, human placental lactogen. For a mother to lactate, for the mother to breastfeed, you need some things. So which is why you have human placental lactogen. And then you have progesterone and estrogen. Ma'am, weren't this ovarian hormones? Yes, but now when the placenta is formed, they take over this. Okay, so you have 4 hormones, only 4 of them. Human chorionic gonadotropin, HPL, progesterone and estrogen, which is released by the placenta. Apart from endocrine function, does the placenta has anything else to do? Yes. For oxygen transport, for carbon dioxide removal, or for nutrient transport and for waste removal, you have the placenta. So for exchange of gases as well as removal of unwanted material, you have the placenta, apart from being a temporary endocrine gland. So ma'am, only these hormones are there during pregnancy? No. In our blood, naturally there are certain hormones which increase their amount only during pregnancy. What are those hormones? Those are thyroxine. You know, thyroxine is super important for metabolism, for breakdown and for making up of things. So that is why the amount of thyroxine increases. Apart from that, prolactin. Prolactin again is a hormone that is responsible for lactation, for the mother to produce milk. So prolactin. Apart from that, you have cortisol. These 3 hormones also are something that is already there in the blood, in a normal person also, not in a pregnant woman, normal person also. But their level increases in many folds during pregnancy. What is it? TPC or TCP, whatever you can remember, you can remember. Okay, it's thyroxine, prolactin as well as cortisol. This placenta has only these 4 hormones. Now what about the ovary? Does the ovary also release something? Yes, there is one ovarian hormone that is given in your NCERT that is released only during pregnancy, and that is relaxin. Relaxin, it relaxes the pelvic ligaments out there so that baby can be moving out. So that is relaxin. So 4 hormones by placenta, 3 hormones increases in many folds, and ovarian hormone is relaxin that is released during later phase of pregnancy. Later phase of pregnancy. So ma'am, the trophoblast layer forms the chorionic villi. Yes, the chorionic villi and the uterine tissue forms what? The placenta. Inner cell mass forms the fetus. Done. Between that, what connection do you have? Umbilical cord. That's all. Take a screenshot of this. You might not get it. Okay. Fine. So yes, inner cell mass of blastocyst becomes what? Extra embryonic membrane differentiated into embryo proper, chorionic villi, placenta. It is obviously not forming the chorionic villi. You're talking about what? Inner cell mass, not the placenta also, not the extra embryonic membrane. Apart from the embryo, nothing else. It is differentiated into embryo proper. Proper embryo out there is known as embryo proper. Okay, the actual embryo out there. So your answer for this question is going to be B. Again, a KCET question. Okay. Now, all about placenta, we discussed about it. Chorionic villi, finger-like projections on trophoblast surrounded by maternal blood. Placenta is formed by chorionic villi plus the uterine tissue. Okay, function is to exchange and also to connect. Okay, endocrine role is secretion of hormones, SCG, HPL, estrogen and progesterone. We discussed about it already. Now, what do you have? So, other hormones, just sit and watch? No, there are certain things which are responsible for very important things. For example, relaxin. Relaxin is secreted by ovary during later phase of pregnancy. It relaxes the pelvic ligaments and the cervix so that baby can easily move out, and increased cortisol, prolactin and thyroxine is there. How do they help? They support the fetal growth, maternal metabolism, that is mother's metabolism, and also pregnancy maintenance. Done. Now, one very important thing before I go ahead, and I want to explain parturition first before I talk about the baby being formed. So parturition is the process. This is just gestation. Okay, the entire period where the baby will now be formed is known as gestation period, and in the case of females it is 9 months, right? And after that, after 9 months, the baby will finally move out, and that process is known as parturition. And I want to talk about that first. So apart from gestation, just a second, I want to talk about this first. I'll tell you the reason also. So now, since you have everything in your head, it will be easy for you to understand. This was the uterus, right? Here you have the endometrium, and here you have the, or basically I can just make it like this. Suppose this is the uterus, and here you have the placenta, and basically you have the baby. Okay, and suppose here you have the myometrium. What metrium? Myometrium, the muscular layer. So what exactly happens is that when the baby is fully formed, okay, when the baby is going to be fully formed, the baby will be releasing some androgens, male sex hormones. Yes, females also have male sex hormones, they will be releasing it. And the placenta basically converts it into some amount of estrogen. Okay, ma'am, it's too complex for me. Do not remember, it's okay. Anyways, the baby is fully formed right up over here. The baby is going to try to move out. When it tries to move out, in the cervix region, my dear children, you have certain receptors. You have some stretch receptors out there which is going to get active. We say parturition is a neuroendocrine process. That means your neuron, that is nervous system, as well as your hormonal system is involved in this. Why do we say that? Listen to me carefully. Over here, when the receptors are active, okay, when the receptors are going to be active, what is going to happen is that it is going to send a neuronal signal to the maternal pituitary, mother's pituitary gland, and maternal pituitary is going to release one very important thing which is known as oxytocin. Oxytocin is now a hormone, So before I talk about that, I want to come back over here. I told you that the baby releases something and the placenta converts into something else. Basically, because of this, because of all of this happening, some hormones being increased, there are some receptors over here that becomes active in the myometrium. What are these receptors? Oxytocin receptors. They get super active. So basically, now when the baby is trying to move out, here the stretch receptors got active. It sends a neuronal signal to the maternal pituitary. What pituitary? Posterior pituitary. Until now we only learned about anterior, right? Maternal posterior pituitary is now going to release a hormone, that is oxytocin. This oxytocin is now going to get inside the uterus and going to bind up over here. When it binds up over here, it starts the secretion of what? It starts the contraction of what? The myometrium, the muscular layer. The smooth muscle is going to contract, relax, and the baby will now be moving out, and the baby, when it's moved out, again the receptor gets active, and the same thing goes again. So the initial step where the baby and the placenta, both of them were giving the signal that I want to move out, is known as the fetal ejection reflex. Okay, it is triggered by the signals from the baby as well as the fetus, as well as the placenta. You cannot do not call it baby, you call it fetus, okay? So parturition is expulsion of fetus due to strong uterine contraction. How does it happen? Signals from the fetus and the placenta comes, in the form of mild uterine contraction. These mild uterine contraction will now be resolved into higher uterine contraction. So oxytocin from the maternal pituitary causes stronger uterine contraction, and there is a positive feedback. Again and again this happens, increasing more and more contraction. After birth, the placenta is also expelled, it also moves out. And sometimes when naturally it is not happening, doctors inject oxytocin. Okay, doctors, they are going to inject oxytocin so that they go bind on the oxygen receptors and the whole process starts off. And when the baby is being born, the first milk that the mother is going to give is known as colostrum. It is yellowish in color and it is highly nutritious. Why? Because it has antibody A, IgA, which provides protection to the baby from all the harmful diseases out there. In the initial phase at least. Baby cannot make its own thing, right? So this is about parturition. So fetal ejection reflex is the first thing where the baby itself tries to move down, and also it releases some hormones which are being converted by placenta, making certain receptors, oxytocin receptors, active on the myometrium. Later on everything happens. If at all this is not happening, doctor gives oxytocin and these oxytocin goes and binds up there. Done. Now we'll talk about exactly how is baby going to be forming out there. So the embryo which was there, the inner cell mass which was there, I told you it gets after implantation, it forms the first two layers, that is ectoderm and endoderm. Ectoderm is the outer layer, it forms the skin, the brain and the nerves. Ectoderm which is there, it forms the skin, the brain and the nerves out there. Endoderm is the innermost layer, it forms the lining of lungs, gut, liver, everything, and something comes in between, and that is known as mesoderm. Mesoderm is going to be connecting link, it is going to be forming muscles, everything that is there in the middle. Muscles, bones, heart, blood and everything is formed by mesoderm. All organs come from these three layers, which is why I'll call them as germ layers. Ectoderm, outermost layer, skin, brain as well as what? Nerves. Endoderm, the lining of gut and everything. Mesoderm, it forms the muscles, bones and the heart and also the blood. Inner cell mass has stem cells which has the potential to become any tissue or organ. So inner cell mass is a part of your embryo, right? And it has stem cells. Stem cells are totipotent in nature. Totipotent. Totipotent basically means they can form whatever they want to, any organ they want to. Okay, so they have the ability to become whatever they want. Cool. So please remember the three germ layers. Until now no questions have come, but you cannot be sure of it. Now this is the part that I love the most, and this is exactly how I want to end this session. So my dear children, how do you think everything is being formed over here? So let's see. So there are few months being given in your NCERT. The first month, when someone dies, what is the first thing that you check? The pulse rate, right? So when someone is born, the first thing that you check is also the heart rate. So over here, first month, at the end of first month, you will be having heart formation and heartbeat will be detectable. Second month, baby will be having limbs as well as digits. Limbs as well as digits. The end of first trimester, that means by the end of 3 months. By the end of 3 months, limbs and digits and everything was formed. Apart from that, your major organ system is going to be formed, and also the external genitalia, male or female, you can identify by this time. Okay, you got it? So that is how it works. Now, usually question does not come that easy. They ask you what happens at the end of first trimester. So you have to talk about this. They ask you what happens at the end of 12 weeks. 12 weeks are. So in each month, how many weeks are there? 4 months. So 4 weeks are there. In 3 months, how many weeks will be there? 3 into 4. What is that? It is basically 12. You have 12 weeks. You have 12 weeks by the end of 3 months. Okay, now 4th month there is a skip. 5th month the baby says that I want to basically have some hair on my head, I want to move around, I cannot be like this. So first movement as well as hair on the head is found in the first month. So sorry, 5th month, not first month, 5th month. So 5th month, first fetal movements and also hair on its head. Now God said that you wanted hair, right? Have hair on your body also. So in 6th month, the baby will be having hair on the body. There will be eyelashes and the eyelids are also going to be separated. So end of the 2nd trimester, that is 24 weeks, fine hair covers the body and eyelids are also going to get separated. Got it? Now 9th month, fully developed fetus ready to be given birth. So the 7th and 8th is being skipped, do not worry about that. And when I say 6th month, you also need to understand that 6th month means second trimester, second 3 months out there, right? So it is also known as second trimester. And also 6th month, how many weeks will be there? 6 into 4, there will be 24 weeks. So after 24 weeks, what happens? You should know. Fine hair covers the body, eyelids they are separating, and eyelashes are also going to be formed. Now listen to me carefully, I'm going to repeat it, and with this you will never forget it. First month, heartbeat. Second month, limbs and digits. Okay. Third month, major organ system, external genitalia organ, all of it is performed. Third month is also known as first trimester, or you also call this as 12 weeks. Okay. Now fourth month skipped. Fifth month directly. Baby says, God, I want to move around. I'm very tired, and I also want hair on my head. I want to do a little show off. So basically, God gives hair on the head, and first one also there. First movement is also there. In the 6th month, God said, you wanted hair, right? Have hair on your body. So there will be baby hairs on the body. And apart from that, eyelashes will be there, and eyelids also going to be separated. Done. That's all. That's all. And then at 9th month, the baby is going to be moving out. And with that, my dear children, we are completing human reproduction chapter. So from the next time onwards, I'll try to be really quick. Guys, is this pace okay? Please let me know. I know that you do not have much time to study. I should have covered it earlier, but when I increase my speed, I have seen that most of you do not understand also. So which is why I was really confused, but I'll be really quick from the next time onwards. But yes, if at all you think that this video had helped you, definitely let me know in the comment section. I really get happy seeing all those comments. And yes, if you have any doubts that you still encounter, please let me know. I am more than a teacher, I'm your friend. I can give you answers for that. And yes, that's all. Lots of love. And if you have not subscribed to the channel, if you have not clicked on the like button, click on it right now. Wishing you all the best. Bye-bye. Take care.